The strange signals began on a quiet Tuesday. Scientists at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station noticed unusual patterns coming from the edge of the solar system. They didn't match any known natural phenomenon. After 3 days of analysis, the conclusion was unavoidable. They were artificial. "Captain Mercer, you're being deployed immediately," Admiral Peterson said, sliding a tablet across his desk. "The UES Vanguard is ready for its first real mission." Jack Mercer nodded, examining the data. At 42, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen more than their share of space, he was the natural choice for this mission. The Vanguard represented Earth's most advanced spacecraft, the pride of humanity's expansion into the solar system in 2157. "We're detecting an object near Pluto's orbit that shouldn't be there," the Admiral continued. "It's not responding to standard hails. We need eyes on it." The Vanguard's departure was swift and without ceremony. The crew of 35 specialists prepared for anything from a scientific discovery to a potential threat. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, the ship's science officer, spent the 5-day journey analyzing the signal patterns. "These are definitely communication protocols," she told Mercer during their approach. "But they follow mathematical sequences we've never encountered before." As they neared the coordinates, the object came into view. Sleek, with an iridescent hull that seemed to shift colors as they watched. It was relatively small, perhaps twice the size of their own vessel. "No visible weapons systems," reported Security Chief Ben Foster. "But I'm detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Mercer ordered the ship to maintain distance. "Open all communication channels. Broadcast our first contact package." For 3 hours, they transmitted Earth's carefully designed introduction. Mathematical sequences, basic atomic structures, and simple greetings in multiple languages. Then, unexpectedly, the alien vessel responded. A holographic display appeared on the Vanguard's bridge. A humanoid figure with pale blue skin, large eyes, and ornate clothing gazed at them. It spoke, the words automatically translated by the ship's computer after analyzing the patterns. "Unregistered vessel, identify your species designation and Empire registration code." Mercer stepped forward. "I am Captain Jack Mercer of the United Earth Ship Vanguard. We represent humanity from the planet Earth. We have no knowledge of any Empire registration." The alien's expression changed subtly. "Scan confirms. Unknown biological pattern. No registration in the Galactic database." It spoke to someone off-screen in its native language before turning back. "Your species designation is not recognized by the Xeraxian Empire. Unregistered species represent potential instability." "We come in peace," Mercer said quickly. "We seek only to learn and establish friendly." The transmission cut abruptly. Martins looked up from her console, alarmed. "Captain, they're powering up systems. Energy readings are spiking." Before Mercer could respond, a beam of intense blue light shot from the alien vessel, striking the Vanguard's shields. The ship shuddered violently. "Shields at 63% from a single hit," Foster shouted. "Evasive maneuvers," Mercer ordered. "Prepare for emergency jump to Earth coordinates." The Vanguard banked sharply as another beam narrowly missed them. Engineer Kelly Harris called from below decks. "Captain, I've analyzed their weapon signature. Their targeting system has a 3-second calibration period before firing." Mercer saw their opportunity. "Take us in close during their next calibration cycle. We need to capture some of their technology." Using the brief window between the alien vessel's attacks, the Vanguard swooped dangerously close. Magnetic grapples extended and tore away a section of the alien hull before the Vanguard jumped away. Back in Earth orbit, the crew examined their prize, a fragment of alien technology that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. But more importantly, they'd brought back a warning. Earth was not alone, and the galaxy was not friendly. The Xeraxian Empire, Mercer reported to Earth's Unified Defense Council. They control vast regions of space, and apparently, they don't appreciate unregistered neighbors. As scientists began studying the captured technology, Orbital sensors detected multiple large objects entering the solar system. The Zeraxians were coming back. And this time, they weren't sending a scout. The warning. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez hadn't slept in 3 days. The alien technology fragment from the Zeraxian scout ship contained data crystals that revealed horrifying truths about humanity's new enemy. "It's worse than we thought," she explained to the Emergency Defense Council. "The Zeraxian Empire spans over 300 star systems. They've been the dominant power in our sector of the galaxy for nearly 2,000 years. The room fell silent as she projected a holographic map showing Earth as a tiny dot at the edge of a vast colored region representing Zeraxian territory. "Their technology is approximately 150 years ahead of ours," she continued. "And according to their records, they consider unregistered species as either potential servants or threats to be eliminated." Admiral Catherine Wright, a stern woman with 4 decades of military service, stood up. "Then we need to prepare for the worst. How long do we have?" Before Martinez could answer, alarms blared throughout the facility. A young officer burst into the room. "Multiple vessels just appeared beyond Mars' orbit. They're massive." Earth's governments, faced with extinction, did what they had never managed during peacetime. They unified. The Earth Defense Coalition formed within days, pooling all military resources under Admiral Wright's command. Dr. Ellen Foster, who had been studying the alien technology, made a critical breakthrough just in time. "Their shields operate on a frequency modulation we can partially counter," he explained as technicians rushed to adapt Earth's defensive satellites. "It won't stop them, but it might buy us time." The Zeraxian battle fleet was intimidating. 7 enormous vessels surrounded by dozens of smaller craft. Their commander, Sub-Admiral Exertal, transmitted a simple message. "Unregistered species Earth humans. You will submit to classification and restriction protocols. Resistance will result in planetary quarantine or elimination." Admiral Wright's response was equally brief. "We respectfully decline." The Battle of Mars began moments later. Earth's hastily assembled fleet of military and retrofitted civilian vessels seemed pathetically small against the Zeraxian armada. But Wright had a plan. "They're expecting us to defend Earth directly," she told her captains. "Instead, we'll engage them at Mars. The planet's magnetic field and the orbital defense platforms we've established will give us an advantage." Captain Mercer, now commanding a squadron of smaller attack craft, led the first strike. "Remember, hit and run only. Target their sensor arrays and external weapon systems, then get clear before they can lock on." The Zeraxians, accustomed to enemies who followed conventional battle tactics, were unprepared for humanity's guerrilla approach. Small Earth vessels darted between the massive alien ships, causing confusion and forcing the Zeraxians to fire at each other to hit their targets. Still, Earth's forces were outmatched. 3 hours into the battle, half of humanity's ships were destroyed or disabled. "We can't win this conventionally," Wright realized. She opened a channel to Dr. Foster on Earth. "Is the package ready?" "Just finished," he replied. "But Admiral, this is completely untested technology. If it works, it will create a temporary subspace disruption that should disable their systems. If it fails, we're out of options," Wright said. "Deploy it now." The device, a hybrid of human and adapted Zeraxian technology, was launched toward the center of the enemy fleet. When it detonated, it created a rippling distortion that temporarily crippled the alien vessel's propulsion and weapons. "All ships, full retreat to Earth defensive positions," Wright ordered. "We've hurt them, but they'll recover soon." As Earth's surviving vessels regrouped, they witnessed 3 of the damaged Zeraxian ships retreating. 4 remained, beginning methodical advance toward Earth. The battle had cost humanity dearly, but they had achieved something remarkable. They had bloodied the nose of a galactic superpower. Moreover, the captured data from destroyed Zeraxian vessels provided invaluable intelligence. That night, as engineers worked frantically to build new defenses, Admiral Wright addressed the United Earth government. Today we learned something the Ziraxians didn't expect. We can fight back. And tomorrow, we'll learn to win. The Resistance. Commander Ryan Peters crouched in the shadows of an asteroid, watching the Ziraxian supply convoy through his tactical visor. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Mars, and humanity had adapted to its new reality. They were fighting for survival against an overwhelmingly powerful enemy. "Target in optimal position," whispered Lieutenant Frank Wilson over the secure channel. "Waiting for your mark." "All teams, execute on my signal," Peters replied. 3, 2, 1. Now. Explosive charges detonated simultaneously across the asteroid field, creating a chain reaction of debris that disabled the convoy's escort ships. Within moments, 12 small Earth vessels emerged from hiding, attaching boarding tubes to the supply carriers. Peters led his team through the alien ship's corridors, facing minimal resistance. The Ziraxians still hadn't adapted to humanity's unpredictable tactics. Within 20 minutes, they had secured the cargo, rare minerals and technology components that would help Earth's resistance effort. Back at the hidden base on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon, Dr. Lisa Holloway made an announcement that changed the course of the war. "I've cracked their communication encryption," she said, dark circles under her eyes betraying weeks of sleepless work. "We can now intercept and understand all Ziraxian fleet communications." Admiral Wright immediately put this advantage to use. Earth forces began ambushing Ziraxian patrols with uncanny precision, disappearing before reinforcements arrived. The Ziraxian commander, now Grand Admiral Kextrax, was furious. "These humans are not fighting according to any recognized doctrine," he reported to the Imperial Council. "They avoid direct confrontation, strike our weakest points, and vanish. I formally request reclassification of humans from feral species to priority threat." The Ziraxian Empire responded by sending more ships, establishing blockades around Earth's major population centers. They expected to starve humanity into submission. Instead, humans went underground. Fleet Commander William Carter stood proudly on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's first purpose-built warship using adapted Ziraxian technology. "This vessel represents humanity's refusal to be conquered," he told his crew. "The enemy expects us to hide. Today, we take the fight to them." The Defiant led a fleet of 20 similar ships in a bold attack against the Ziraxian blockade, using short-range warp jumps, a technology the Ziraxians considered too dangerous and unpredictable. The Earth vessels appeared inside the enemy formation. "Their ships can't target what they can't predict," Carter said as the Defiant jumped position for the third time in 30 seconds, its weapons tearing through a Ziraxian cruiser's weakened shields. The battle lasted only 40 minutes, but when it ended, the blockade was broken. 7 Ziraxian vessels were destroyed, with the rest retreating to regroup. Earth had won its first significant victory. Among the captured Ziraxian databases was a discovery that shocked humanity. They weren't alone in their resistance. The Empire controlled dozens of unregistered species across the galaxy, many held on prison worlds for integration processing. The closest such world was designated XL5, orbiting a red dwarf star 12 light-years from Earth. Major Samantha Kelly was assigned to lead a rescue mission. "This isn't just about saving these beings," Admiral Wright explained during the mission briefing. "It's about building alliances. We need friends in this fight." As Earth's resistance gained momentum, the Ziraxians revealed the fundamental flaw in their imperial thinking. They couldn't comprehend adaptability. Their tactics remained rigid, following millennia-old doctrines that had always worked against conventional enemies. Humans, faced with extinction, proved to be anything but conventional. Factory workers became engineers, developing hybrid technologies. Civilian pilots learned combat maneuvers. Children studied alien language patterns, becoming code breakers. The Ziraxian Empire had made a critical miscalculation. They had classified humans by their technological development, not by their spirit or creativity. As Dr. Holloway told the Resistance leadership, "The Ziraxians expect us to fight like they do. Our advantage is that we don't." On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Carter received word that Major Kelly's mission to XL5 had been successful. Earth was about to gain powerful allies in its desperate fight for survival. Unexpected allies. Major Samantha Kelly stepped onto the surface of prison world XL5, breathing through a filtration mask. The air was thin but breathable, with a purplish sky overhead. Behind her, 3 transport ships from Earth waited with engines humming. Prisoner compounds are 2 kilometers north, reported her second-in-command, Lieutenant Paul Garcia. Guards appear to be minimal. They weren't expecting visitors. Kelly nodded. The Ziraxians never imagined anyone would care enough about unregistered species to mount a rescue. That's their weakness. Arrogance. Her team moved quickly through the alien landscape. When they reached the first compound, they found beings of various shapes and sizes, all wearing similar restraint collars. Some had tentacles, others multiple limbs. Some resembled earth insects scaled to human size. The first creatures they freed were the Navorians. Tall, slender beings with 4 arms and iridescent skin that changed color with their emotions. Their leader, a female named Selteri, spoke through a translation device. "You are not Ziraxian," she observed, her skin shifting from cautious gray to hopeful blue. "What species are you?" "Human," Kelly replied. "From Earth. We're fighting the Ziraxian Empire, and we need allies." Selteri's skin flashed bright gold, a sign of excitement, they would later learn. The Navorian people were spacefaring for centuries before the Ziraxians declared us unregistered and destroyed our fleet. We would gladly fight alongside you. In another compound, they discovered the Tori, stocky, rhinoceros-like beings with natural armor plating and remarkable engineering skills. Their elder, Grox, examined the human weapons with 6-fingered hands. "Primitive, but creative," he rumbled approvingly. "You adapt Ziraxian technology in ways they would never consider." The Tari respect innovation. Within hours, the prison guards were overwhelmed, and over 3,000 captives from 7 different species boarded the human transports. It was the beginning of what would become the Alliance of Free Species. Back on Europa base, Chief Engineer Daniel Harrison worked with Navorian and Tori specialists to combine their technologies. The results were astonishing. The Navorians understand energy manipulation beyond anything we've developed, Harrison explained to Admiral Wright. And the Tori can manufacture components at microscopic scales our machines can't achieve. Within weeks, the first hybrid weapon systems were installed on Earth vessels. The new Alliance fleet, though small, possessed capabilities the Ziraxians had never encountered. On the Ziraxian throne world, Emperor Zexkalor received troubling reports. "The humans have liberated XL5. He demanded of his ministers. "How is this possible?" "Their tactics are unpredictable, Your Eminence," replied the defense minister. "They use technologies and combinations our doctrine considers inefficient or dangerous." The Emperor's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "I am dispatching Grand Admiral Kexthrax with the Imperial Guard fleet. This human resistance must be crushed completely." When Alliance intelligence intercepted this communication, Admiral Wright called an emergency meeting. The Imperial Guard fleet includes 30 capital ships and over 100 support vessels. She informed the Alliance leaders. "They'll arrive at Jupiter within 2 weeks." Selteri's skin darkened to a worry purple. "We cannot match such numbers." "We don't need to match their numbers," Commander Carter argued. "We just need to be smarter." The Alliance prepared its defense around Jupiter, using the gas giant's moons as staging areas. When the Imperial fleet arrived, they faced a scattered resistance that refused to mass for traditional battle. The Ziraxians, frustrated by these tactics, deployed their most powerful weapon, a gravity disruptor that could tear apart small moons. As the weapon charged, targeting Europa base, the Alliance appeared to panic, their ships breaking formation. Grand Admiral Kexthrax smiled with all 4 of his mouthparts. "Predictable after all," he said to his bridge officers. "They flee before our superior firepower." He did not realize that the apparent retreat was actually a carefully coordinated maneuver. As the gravity weapon fired, Alliance ships jumped to predetermined positions, and Europa, evacuated days earlier, was sacrificed. But the massive energy discharge left the Imperial flagship vulnerable for 8 crucial seconds. In that brief window, 3 Alliance cruisers led by Kelly's vessel struck from different vectors. The turning point. Captain Nicol Bennett's ship, the UES Persistence, drifted silently through the debris field that was once a Xeraxian scout vessel. Her crew had been hiding in the outer solar system for months after being separated during a previous battle. "Show me again," she said to her science officer, Kyle Morris. Morris brought up the holographic display of the data they'd extracted from the Xeraxian wreckage. "It's a complete schematic of their shield harmonics. We've been attacking at the wrong frequencies this entire time." Bennett leaned forward, her eyes reflecting the blue light of the display. "Their shields are strongest at the frequencies we've been using. But here," she pointed to a particular section of the data, "and here, they have vulnerable points." The Persistence couldn't transmit this discovery without revealing their position to nearby Xeraxian patrols. Bennett made a difficult decision. "Plot a course through the Kuiper Belt. We're going to the Neptune outpost." The hidden base beyond Neptune had become the Alliance's last stronghold after the devastating Battle of Jupiter. Ships from 7 species had gathered there, licking their wounds and preparing for what many believed would be their final stand. When the Persistence arrived, Bennett was immediately taken to Admiral Wright. "Their shield technology has a fundamental flaw," Bennett explained, displaying the schematics. "If we recalibrate our weapons to these exact frequencies, we can penetrate their defenses with a fraction of the energy." Hope spread through the Alliance forces as engineers worked to modify their weapons. Meanwhile, Professor Greg Wilson, a military historian, made another crucial discovery. "I've been analyzing all our combat data against the Xeraxians," he told the gathered commanders. "They always follow the same battle patterns, formations that haven't changed in centuries. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force applied according to rigid protocols." He brought up displays showing previous engagements. "Look here and here. When we do something unexpected, there's always a delay of exactly 14 seconds before they adapt. I believe their command structure requires approval from higher authorities before deviating from standard tactics." Admiral Wright saw the opportunity immediately. "So we hit them with something completely unorthodox, and we have a 14-second window before they respond." The Alliance developed a bold strategy called Operation Thunderstrike. Instead of concentrating their forces, they would split into dozens of small battle groups and attack Xeraxian positions throughout the solar system simultaneously. "The key is coordination," Wright explained to her captains. "Every group must strike at precisely the same moment, using the shield frequencies Captain Bennett discovered. The Xeraxians won't be able to respond to all attacks at once." The Alliance spent 2 weeks in preparation, synchronizing their chronometers and rehearsing the complex maneuvers. Finally, the moment arrived. At exactly 400 Earth Standard Time, 67 Alliance vessels appeared from hiding places throughout the solar system, striking Xeraxian outposts, patrols, and bases. They used the recalibrated weapons, which cut through enemy shields like they weren't even there. On the bridge of the flagship UES Defiance, Admiral Wright watched the tactical display as green indicators representing Alliance ships blinked in and out of engagement zones, striking and moving before the Xeraxians could respond. "They're trying to establish a coordinated defense," reported her tactical officer. "But they can't predict where we'll appear next." The human tendency for unconventional thinking proved decisive. While other species in the Alliance had specific battle doctrines of their own, humans had contributed a willingness to try the unexpected, the risky, even the seemingly foolish. 7 hours later, the Xeraxian command ship under Grand Admiral Kexthrax was surrounded by Alliance vessels that had gradually worked their way through his defenses. "You fight without honor," the Grand Admiral transmitted as his shields failed. "We fight to survive," Wright responded. "Surrender your vessel." When Alliance forces boarded the Ziraxian flagship, they found something more valuable than the ship itself. Its strategic database remained intact. The information it contained would change the course of the war. As analysts began decoding the massive database, one thing became clear. The Ziraxian Empire had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had cataloged humans as a minor threat, a primitive species barely worth their attention. It was a miscalculation that would cost them everything. Empire's flaw. Colonel Eric Donovan had been analyzing the Ziraxian strategic database for 4 straight days. His eyes were bloodshot, his uniform rumpled, but he couldn't stop. What he was finding was too important. "You need to see this," he told Admiral Wright when she visited his workspace. The Ziraxians categorize all species according to technological benchmarks. They placed humans in the early space development category, barely worth monitoring. Wright raised an eyebrow. That explains their initial overconfidence, but surely they've updated their assessment. "That's the thing," Donovan replied, bringing up more data screens. "Their entire strategic approach is based on these initial classifications. They simply don't have a protocol for a species that advances as rapidly as we do." The captured database revealed something even more significant. The Ziraxians had never encountered a species with humanity's particular evolutionary history. They evolved from ambush predators, Donovan explained, showing biological records. Most spacefaring species in their database evolved from either group hunters like pack animals or from solitary territorial defenders. He brought up human evolutionary data. "We're persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. No other spacefaring species evolved this way." Wright understood immediately. Endurance. Adaptability. The willingness to suffer short-term pain for long-term gain. "Exactly," Donovan nodded. "The Ziraxians expect enemies to either strike quickly then retreat to safe territory, or to stand their ground and defend fixed positions. Our guerrilla tactics and willingness to sacrifice territory temporarily before counterattacking completely confuses their strategic models." The Alliance leadership gathered to discuss this revelation. Sel Terry of the Navorians spoke first, her skin shifting to thoughtful blue. "My people were conquered because we refused to abandon our homeworld," she admitted. "We concentrated our defenses there, making us predictable." Grox of the Tory nodded his massive head. "The Tory fought conventionally, formation against formation. We lost because they had more ships, more soldiers." Admiral Wright stood at the holographic display showing Ziraxian territory. "They expect us to fight for Earth, to concentrate our forces there. Instead, we'll take the fight to them, not in one massive battle, but in hundreds of small engagements. We'll strike their supply lines, their communication relays, their outlying bases." The strategy was named Operation Endurance, reflecting the human quality that the Ziraxians couldn't comprehend. Alliance forces began systematic campaigns against Ziraxian-held systems, not trying to hold territory, but to disrupt their operations. The Ziraxian response was predictably rigid. They fortified their major worlds, expecting the Alliance to attack there. Instead, the Alliance targeted the infrastructure that connected those worlds: supply depots, fuel refineries, shipyards. Dr. Lisa Holloway expanded her communication breakthroughs, developing methods to broadcast directly to subjugated species on Ziraxian worlds. "We're not just fighting their ships," she explained. "We're fighting their narrative that resistance is futile." Throughout Ziraxian space, previously docile subject species began sabotaging Imperial operations. The Empire, which had stood for 2,000 years, faced internal resistance for the first time. On the bridge of the Alliance flagship New Dawn, formerly the captured vessel of Grand Admiral Kextrax, Captain Bennett watched as another Ziraxian supply convoy fell to their hit-and-run tactics. "They still don't understand," she said to Colonel Donovan, who had joined her command staff. "They keep expecting us to fight according to their rulebook." Donovan nodded. Their entire empire is built on the assumption that technological superiority equals victory. They can't comprehend that determination and adaptability might matter more. The Xeraxian Emperor, facing unprecedented defeats, made a desperate decision. He recalled forces from throughout the Empire to defend their core worlds. It was exactly what the Alliance had hoped for. As Imperial forces contracted, dozens of subject worlds declared independence. The once mighty Xeraxian Empire began to crumble from within. In a transmission intercepted by Alliance intelligence, a Xeraxian High Commander asked a question that showed they were finally beginning to understand their mistake. How do you defeat an enemy who doesn't know when they're beaten? The answer, as humanity had demonstrated throughout its bloody history, was simple. You don't. Word spread throughout the galaxy of the species that had done the impossible. Among the stars, humans gained a new name. The Unbroken New Galactic Order. The Xeraxian homeworld gleamed like a jewel against the blackness of space. Xerax Prime, with its 3 moons and ring system, had been the center of galactic power for 2,000 years. Now it was surrounded by the largest fleet ever assembled. 300 vessels from 27 formerly subjugated species, led by humanity's finest ships. Admiral Catherine Wright stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, looking at the tactical display. After 2 years of fighting, the war had finally reached the enemy's heart. All fleet commanders report ready, Lieutenant Garcia announced. The Navorian and Tari battle groups are in position. Wright nodded. Open a channel to the Imperial Palace. The enormous view screen flickered, then displayed the face of Emperor Xexkilor. His compound eyes showed no emotion, but the twitching of his lower mandibles betrayed anxiety. Emperor Xexkilor, Wright began, I speak for the Alliance of Free Species. Your empire has attacked unprovoked, enslaved peaceful races, and attempted to destroy my homeworld. But today, I offer you peace. The Emperor's translator conveyed his reply. The Xeraxian Empire does not negotiate with lesser species. We're not asking you to negotiate, Wright replied calmly. We're offering terms of surrender. All species under Xeraxian control will be granted independence. Your people may keep your homeworld and colony planets. The era of the Xeraxian Empire is over, but the Xeraxian species can have a future among equals. The Emperor's response was immediate. Xeraxians do not surrender. We have ruled the stars since before your species discovered fire. Our technological superiority has failed you. Wright interrupted. Technology alone isn't enough. You never understood that. She ended the transmission and turned to her communications officer. Signal Captain Mercer. His team is authorized to proceed. Far below the main fleet, the UES Vanguard, the same ship that had made first contact with the Xeraxians 2 years earlier, slipped through gaps in the planetary defense grid. Captain Jack Mercer, older now with a scar across his left cheek, led a small strike team equipped with stealth technology developed by the Alliance's combined scientific expertise. Remember, he told his team, our target is the central command node below the Imperial Palace. We disable it, not destroy it. We want to end this war, not annihilate their civilization. Using access codes extracted from the captured database, Mercer's team infiltrated the palace through maintenance tunnels. When they reached the command node, a massive crystalline computer that coordinated all Imperial military operations, they planted specialized disruptors designed by Dr. Foster. Disruptors activated, reported Sergeant Lucy Rivera. Central command node will shut down in 3 minutes. As they withdrew, palace guards discovered them. In the firefight that followed, Mercer took a plasma blast to his shoulder, but continued leading his team to the extraction point. Above the planet, the Xeraxian defense fleet suddenly lost coordination. Their formations became disorganized as local commanders were forced to make decisions without central direction, something their rigid hierarchy had never prepared them for. The Alliance fleet moved in, disabling rather than destroying enemy vessels whenever possible. After 6 hours of fighting, the Xeraxian defense collapsed. The Imperial Palace surrendered, though Emperor Xexkilor took his own life rather than face defeat. In the aftermath, Representatives from all Alliance species gathered on the neutral moon of Proxima III to establish a new galactic order. The Galactic Cooperative of Sovereign Species was formed, with Earth as a founding member. Today marks the beginning of a new era, Admiral Wright declared at the signing ceremony. Not an era dominated by any single species, but one of cooperation and mutual respect. Captain Mercer, his arm still healing, stood at the back of the chamber. Lieutenant Martinez, now Commander Martinez, approached him. "Hard to believe it all started with us encountering that scout ship," she said. Mercer nodded. "The Ziraxians made one fundamental mistake. They judged us by our technology, not by our spirit." "Their biggest mistake," Martinez replied, "was starting a fight with the one species in the galaxy that doesn't know how to quit." As delegates from across the galaxy mingled and formed new alliances, humanity had earned something beyond victory: respect. The former subjects of the Ziraxian Empire looked to humans not as conquerors, but as liberators and teachers of a powerful lesson. True strength lies not in technological superiority, but in the unbreakable will to endure, adapt, and overcome. The stars, once dominated by a single imperial power, now belong to all. Legacy of the Unbroken. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Ziraxian Empire. The Galactic Cooperative had grown to include 43 species across hundreds of star systems. Peace had largely prevailed, but peace required constant vigilance. Jack Mercer, now Admiral Mercer, walked through the Grand Hall of the Cooperative Council on Proxima II. His old injuries sometimes still bothered him, especially the plasma burn on his shoulder, but he carried himself with the same determination that had defined him during the war. "The human delegation has arrived, Admiral," announced his aide, a young lieutenant named Ashley Cooper. Mercer nodded. "And the Navorians. Already in the chamber, along with representatives from 15 other worlds." Today's meeting was more important than most knew. Intelligence reports had identified activity in the far reaches of the galaxy, a new power rising from beyond known space. Inside the council chamber, familiar faces greeted him. Cel Terry, her skin a calm diplomatic blue, now served as the Cooperative's chief ambassador. Grox of the Tory had become Minister of Technology, his species' engineering genius helping to rebuild worlds devastated by the war. Admiral Catherine Wright, now serving as Earth's primary representative to the Cooperative, joined Mercer at the human delegation's table. "Have you seen the latest reports?" she asked quietly. "The Veil Nebula activity?" "Yes. Their ships don't match any known configuration." Wright's expression remained neutral, but Mercer knew her well enough to see her concern. "They've already absorbed 3 star systems along the outer rim. No resistance reported." Before they could discuss further, Chancellor Vexmar entered, a younger cousin of the former emperor who had denounced the old empire's ways and helped establish the Cooperative. The irony of a Ziraxian leading the new galactic order was not lost on anyone, but it served as a powerful symbol of change. "The Council is now in session," Vexmar announced. "Our first matter concerns reports from the Veil Nebula region." Long-range sensor data displayed on the chamber's central hologram. Strange vessels moved through the stars with an efficiency that suggested advanced technology. "We've attempted communication," reported the intelligence director, but received no response. "They appear to be systematically claiming territory without negotiation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species remembered all too well what it meant to face a technologically superior aggressor. "The situation reminds me of old history," Mercer said, rising to address the council. "When human nations on Earth encountered others they deemed primitive, they often simply took what they wanted. The strong dominated the weak. It was considered natural." He walked to the central display, pointing to the pattern of expansion. "These newcomers may operate on the same principle. They see no need to communicate because they don't view us as equals." "What would you suggest, Admiral?" asked Chancellor Vexmarch. "We should remember the lesson of the Ziraxian War," Mercer replied. "Technology alone doesn't determine outcomes. The cooperative represents the combined wisdom and strength of dozens of species, each with unique perspectives and abilities. He turned to face the gathered representatives. We should dispatch a contact fleet, not just human ships, not just Zeraxian or Navorian or Tauri, but vessels from all our peoples. Show these newcomers that they don't face a scattered collection of worlds, but a united galactic community. Selteri's skin flushed approval gold. The Admiral is right. The old empire would have responded with overwhelming military force. We must demonstrate that we are different. The Council voted unanimously to prepare a diplomatic mission, backed by sufficient defensive capability to command respect. Mercer would lead the expedition, with ships and crews drawn from 20 different species. As the Council adjourned, Wright joined Mercer at the observation window overlooking the moon's beautiful azure landscape. "You know this could be dangerous," she said. "These newcomers might see our approach as a threat." Mercer smiled slightly. "Perhaps, but the Zeraxians taught us something important. Understanding those you encounter is as crucial as any technology. They failed to understand humanity's persistence. We won't make the same mistake." He looked out at the stars. Whatever these new beings are, whatever technology they possess, they've never encountered anything like the cooperative. They've never faced species who learn to stand together despite their differences.